were no racism, there'd be no climate crisis. If there was no misogyny, there'd be no climate crisis. It's part of a mindset. It's the mindset that looks at a woman and says, nice.
Oh dear, they're in La La Land. You couldn't be surprised. Let's head to Australia and The Spectator's brilliant columnist, Alex Marshall. Hi, Alex.
Good morning. I could have acted it out for you if you needed me to.
Please, I don't want to see it again. This is typical, though, of woke Hollywood, isn't it?
Oh, look, when I was researching this, I couldn't believe what I was watching, but I figured that she's an actress, right? So she probably didn't pull up this whole climate change is caused by racism and misogyny on her own. So this is actually coming out of the United Nations and a lot of so-called serious reports on the issue.
Yes, indeed. I mean, look, the bottom line is that it's an ideology. It's a religion now, isn't it, climate change?
Of course it is, but it's actually become more than a religion. So the plebs, the peasants, Mark, they think it's a religion. They're buying into this idea that if they just be nicer, the climate will fix itself. But all of the bureaucrats and all of the activists have worked out that they can make a lot of money out of this. So by pretending that this whole climate change is about racism and past oppression, well, then they can basically blackmail the West to pay them a fortune in reparations. Now, when you read through all these reports, it's not about saving the climate. It's about how many billions of dollars every year they can siphon out of Western nations and pour into these despot regimes.
Yes. How persuaded, though, are the public by rich celebrities wagging their fingers about climate change? Because I think it's counterproductive.
Oh, look, I used a photograph for my article with her lounging back amongst all of her supporters getting Instagram photos. I mean, she looked like some kind of white savior complex, but there was nobody there to save. But I reckon people would be less convinced if they could actually read what the UN reports say. And I just want to float this new idea they've got going around. They call it global sacrifice zones, also known as racial and ethnic sacrifice zones. That's their new ideology. That's their new way of saying, well, the climate's killing people because you're white. Therefore, these celebrities are saying, well, we have to stop oil. And as I point, I mean, this never does make sense. Don't try and understand it. So as I said with Jane Fonda's thing, if she stops oil, which is her main goal, medicine is 95% dependent on oil. So she'll basically end modern medicine if she gets her wish.
Yes. And what about all the oil in that makeup of hers that makes her look so perennially young?
I love that her outfit, she's talking about poor women in the third world. Well, her outfit's probably worth more than one of those women will make in their entire life. But instead of donating that to the third world, she's there getting selfies for her Facebook and Twitter accounts.
I also wonder, Alex, whether or not chucking the word racist around in relation to everything, including climate change, diminishes the power of the word and therefore is quite racist in itself.
I'm actually a little bit worried that Australia is going to be declared a racial sacrifice zone because we've got a new referendum coming up where racism has been monetised and weaponised in Australia for the purpose of creating a new layer of bureaucracy and enshrining quite literally racial supremacy into our constitution. Now, that kind of thing is playing into this UN reparations deal where they want Australian citizens to no longer have access to their natural resources. So I don't know if you saw, but a cartoonist was literally warned that he's not allowed to draw Ayers Rock or Uluru, as you may know it. This stuff is getting out of control, and that's racism. To say you're white, you can't draw a geological feature that's famous around the world in every advertising campaign is completely mental. And it makes me wonder what version of reality that we're currently living in, because Australia has lost the plot.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's happened to the Western world. Now, Alex, I'm assuming, I know it's 2022, but I assume you still identify as a woman. Let's call you a cis woman. That's the latest fashion. Do you think Jane Fonda's got a point that climate change is because of a misogynist mindset? Is it all our fault, us blokes?
I have to say that as a blonde, and don't forget, technically blondes get a lot more hell than most other women, I've not met nicer people than normal straight White men. They are by far the nicest people in this industry. The really nasty ones, they're the woke ones, especially woke women. They are horrifically sexist. I get told to go back in the kitchen and make dinner for a farmer husband that I don't have. This is the sort of rhetoric that they go on with. And if Jane Fonda wants to fix this problem of misogyny, she should really look at her own kind, her followers, the left. They are the ones that are horrific to women.
Yes, you mentioned woke women. You're missing an extra W. It's woke white women. They're the worst. And it's actually essentially politically correct white people that are behind so much of this race baiting.
Oh, look, we call them the Teals because in Australia we have a new political movement funded by renewables billionaires made up of predominantly white, extremely wealthy women from the North Shore suburbs of Sydney. And these are the ones who are leaning really heavily into race politics. They think it's somehow virtuous to divide little kids at school and tell the ones who that they're guilty of past historical racism because of the colour of their skin. This is truly sinister stuff. And I mean, we can laugh about it because we escaped this education system that's now gone off a cliff into nowhere. But the kids that are growing up these days are growing up with a warped sense of their identity, and they're becoming hyper racist because they're told to focus on their race. So we've got bureaucracies internationally making money off it. And then we've got another generation coming up who aren't going to be able to behave normally in society.